Brian Robertson is a Scottish rock guitarist, best known as a former member of Thin Lizzy and Motörhead. Join Mark Lewis and R.O.A. for an exclusive interview.
Real rock and roll news. From the legends of rock, you found rockonamerica.live. We're bringing rock and roll to America and beyond. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
Picture a young lad from Clarkston, Renfrewshire, switching from cello and classical piano to guitar and drums. This is Brian Robertson, the Scottish rock guitarist, recognised for his performances Thin Lizzy and Motörhead. He started playing at local gigs with bands like Dream Police before joining Thin Lizzy. His unique guitar sound became the band's signature, influencing bands like Iron Maiden and Metallica. Robertson's use of the wah-wah pedal during solos added an innovative layer to the band's sound. However, after the release of The Boys Are Back in Town and the Jailbreak LP, he struggled with the ensuing fame, resorting to heavy drinking. In an unexpected turn, Robertson replaced Fast Eddie Clarke as Motorhead's lead guitarist in May 1982. Stay tuned for an interview with Mark Lewis and R.O.A. as they explore the life and career of this groundbreaking musician.
This is Mark with Rock Over America magazine, and today I have the extreme privilege to interview somebody who is legendary. We're going to touch on something when you look at the composition of music that he did and the body of work they did in the one group he was in, you can see that it was actually unfairly criticized. Put out a brand new album called Diamonds and Dirt. Without further ado, is Brian Robertson, who is in Thin Lizzy Motörhead and has a solo album. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm doing fine, mate. How are you?
I am doing good. If you don't mind me starting with this, I'd like to ask you what your musical influences were growing up.
Well, it kind of varied. I was classically trained, so classical music had a lot to do with me growing up, and as the jazz, because my father was a jazz musician, so I kind of grew up on Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman and whatnot. And then, of course, when the British blues boom started, Peter Green from Fleetwood Mac was my hero.
And what was the one thing that made you realize that you thought about, maybe the one or two things, that one moment that made you realize this is what you wanted to do for a career?
I don't think you can really pin that down when you're that young. It's just, you just want to do it, that's it. You're not thinking about anything else, really. I mean, there were only two things I was good at, which was music and art, and English. And that was about it, really. And so I just sort of fell into the music thing naturally, you know?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And, you have a very, very interesting and illustrious career, because you came into Thin Lizzy and replaced Gary Moore, who's legendary in his own right. And then when you left Thin Lizzy, he kind of came back and replaced you. Do you mind taking just a minute and sharing maybe what your favorite album was and what you really loved about being in there?
Favorite Lizzy album, you mean?
Yeah, favorite Lizzy album, and maybe your favorite Lizzy song, and maybe just a favorite moment or something that stands in your mind about what you really liked about being in Thin Lizzy. Because I know that you've worked with Gary Moore here recently, and you've gone back and you guys have done tribute to Phil Lynott, and you've had a connection to that off and on over the years.
Yeah, I don't think the connection ever breaks from Lizzy, because it was kind of like it was like a family thing, which is very much what I'm in now. My new band is very much their old friends and family. So the Lizzy thing, I was growing up, I was very young when I joined them. I mean, favorite album of Lizzy, I guess, studio-wise, is Johnny the Fox, which I know a lot of people will be a bit surprised about, but that was my favorite studio album, because it was a little bit more left field and a little bit more adventurous,
Oh yeah, it's a really good album though too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of the bands agree with that. They'd probably say Jailbreak or whatever, but But then again, of course, you've got Loud and Dangerous, which is a totally different thing, you know. So I kind of split it up between the two, Johnny Fox and Loud and Dangerous.
And you went from there, and you did another project, and which is called Wild Horses. And from that, I know we don't have a lot of time. You went to Motorhead, and as I was saying before we started this, I even talked to Mickey D here recently when I interviewed him, and I made this statement to him that perhaps the best Motorhead of all time was Another Perfect Day, which you had played on. And then the second best Motorhead album of all time is the new one, and he did not disagree with that statement at all. And I think that was a very, very interesting time frame, and I think that, along with Thin Lizzy, kind of brings you forward to the new album, because the reason why I really believe that album is perhaps the greatest Motorhead album of all time, period, is this. When you came into the band and you played on that and you were on that album, you brought an element to a band that was very, very heavy, but also what I would call working class rock, blues, if you want to call it punk, whatever you want to call it, but a working class rock band. And you brought an element of melody, and it had a commercial sound to it, but there's also something very beautiful in the way that you played. And I think that people that really understand that what you did and how you played on there, you added an element that group had never had before or since. Not to take away from them, it's just that you added an extra depth in there. And I don't think that you really ever got the right. From everything I've heard, it was either people absolutely loved it or hated it, but I don't think that you ever really got the credit that you deserved in there. And that's why I wanted to mention that for a minute. And if you wanted to spotlight anything on there, like I said, when you look at the guitar playing and strip everything down, it's perhaps the greatest Motorhead album ever.
Well, as you said before, you know, it's certainly different. But I mean, the whole thing with Motorhead was, you know, I joined them simply because I got a phone call one day, and you know, Lemmy and Sophie were old friends anyway, and they were a bit in the shit when Eddie left, and I got a phone call, and I was on a plane the next day to go out and tour, and I didn't know any of the songs, because Motorhead wasn't really my thing, you know, music-wise. So I had to go out and cover all these songs, and it was very nerve-wracking, I have to say. At the end of the American tour, they asked me to join permanently, you know, because I was only doing it as a sort of favor and a session, so to speak. But I did say to them at that time, I said, well, you know, if you want me to join permanently and we'll record, the writing is not going to be the way it has been, because I don't write that way, you know. So it's going to be different, and the band has to take a different direction, because, you know, if I'm in the band, then it's going to have to, which is exactly what happened. You know, when I started writing the material, I think the boys were a bit freaked. But they seemed to love it, you know, and embrace it. And when it came to recording, obviously they weren't used to recording the way I was used to it, you know, because I was in the studio 24 hours a day, arranging, producing, and, you know, writing all the different guitar parts, you know, loads of overdubs, and, you know, but they weren't used to that. But they seemed to embrace it, and I enjoyed it, and I'm very proud of that album. I think it's, as you say, you know, it's not your archetypal Motorhead album, but I think it stands up in its own right, you know.
Absolutely, and that's why I was saying that. I really believe this when you look at everything and you strip everything down piece by piece, the songwriting, the guitar playing, everything, and it's different, but I really believe that when you really look at it objectively, it's the best Motorhead album out there, period, because it's also the elements that you brought in there. That's why I wanted to talk about that for a minute, because that also stands out as your guitar playing ability to do something where you bring an element of beauty and melody, and I think it's your musical background. I also have a classical music background too, but with the cello. And I think that has a lot to do with who you are as a guitarist and musician.
Well, I think it probably did have a lot to do with me as a player and also, as you say, as an all-round musician. But as I said before, they seem to embrace it when I finish writing something, they come into to the rehearsal studio and I'd play them this sort of idea and they'd go, ooh, they sort of look at each other like me and Phil and go, this is a bit strange, but hey, let's have a bash at it, and then they put their own thing on it, and I loved it, and like I say, they seem to embrace it and they enjoy doing it, I mean, they were basically used to just go straight into the studio and knocking things out one after the other, bang, 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 bang. Whereas that's not the way I record. As long as I've got the rhythm section down, then I can then look at what's there and then decide where to take the song from there, which is not your typical Motorhead way of doing things. But I think it worked on that album.
Oh, absolutely, and it wasn't ever the band I heard that ever knocked. It was just fans that I don't think ever got it. That's all. And
well, I totally understand that. I really do. But I hesitate to say it's the best Motorhead album because it's not really 100% Motorhead in the fans' eyes. And I just think that the fans wanted just another Motorhead album. Well, that was never going to happen with me in the band, It was always going to have to change. And it did,
Well, the new album has shades of that album on it, too. That's the funny part, and everybody loves it now, but there are a couple of songs that have definite shades of that album on there, absolutely.
Oh, I haven't heard it, but, it might be interesting to have a listen and just see, take on board what you're saying there, yeah.
Yeah, I'll send Dave the information and that. I'll make sure you got the information for that so you can take a listen to it. I want to go into the album now because we got a little bit of time left, and I want to spend the rest of the time talking about the new album. And I am going to bosh names here, so I'm going to need you to help me with this. You have a gentleman from Europe, Ian, and you're going to have to help me with the last name.
All right, drummer is Ian Houghton.
And he's from Europe, and then from Treat is...
Nala Olsen.
Okay, and then you have Lee Sundin from MSG, Macaulay Schenker Group, or is it the Michael Schenker Group?
Michael Schenker Group. No, don't say Macaulay.
Okay. Well, there's two versions of that, so when you see MSG, it's like, which one is it?
Yeah, well, it certainly isn't Macaulay, let me tell you that. I had a band together with him at one point, and that was a disaster. No, it's the Michael Schenker Group, and Lee Sundin, who I've worked with quite a lot in the past. I mean, I've known Ian for a long, long time. So we're all actually very good friends. So it makes life a lot easier,
And the album has 13 songs on there, and
yeah, you've forgotten Liney Wood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because she's an integral part of the sound of the band.
And what does she do in the band? Because I have the album, but since the copy's not actually out yet, I have the digital version of it, so I didn't have the liner notes or anything.
Okay, well, Liney is she kind of does a second lead vocal and backing vocal thing with me. And the reason she came in was because she was recording next door in the same studio as us. And she came in and asked to have a listen because she liked what she was hearing. And I said, yeah, I've never met her before. And she came in and listened to it. And I went and listened to her album that she was recording next door. And we did a deal basically where she sang vocals on my album and I went next door and sang guitar on her album. So it's, like I say, it's kind of a pretty close-knit family sort of thing,
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some interesting things on here. There are a couple of songs that you and Phil Lynott wrote together. You also have something that Frankie Miller did on here as well. And Frankie Miller's an amazing musician, and I mean to the point that he's even one of Bob Seger's favorite. I've heard Bob Seger talking about this. Even he's one of Bob Seger's favorites. So I hear Bob Seger talking about got to check that out, and he became one of my favorites, too.
Yeah, we toured America with Bob, actually. I've been working on and off with Miller for 10, 15 years. In fact, he was even on the first Lizzy album that I ever did, Nightlife. So we've been close for a long, long time. But, Miller is very highly regarded by just about every singer in the world.
Yeah.
Anybody that's into rock and blues. And so, because I spent so much time playing with him live, we had such a good band at one point. We had Simon Kirk from Bad Company and Chrissy Stewart on bass. And there's real reflections from the periods where I've been playing live with Miller and as to what I put down on this album. I guess you would have to have seen as I got the legs that we did with Miller, to sort of see the comparisons. But there is definitely a comparison that, it did have an effect on what I wanted to do on the album.
Yeah, it has a very, very time-stamped feel in one sense. It has kind of a 70s, 80s feel to it in one sense, but at the same time, that feel is very...
I'd leave the 80s out, actually, mate. The 80s to me were just like silly haircuts and stupid jackets and that, No, I think time-wise, the 70s I can understand, because there was some great sounds going in the 70s.
Well, like some Aerosmith and some of the stuff like that, I can hear some of that in there, and I can hear some of the playing that you brought in the Motorhead in the early 80s. I can hear some of that in there. But then you go into some stuff that's very bluesy, and it's just the overall very, very powerful album that when I review albums for the magazine, sometimes I get an album that, has a couple good songs, and then some of them are okay, and then you get the filler songs in there. And then I get the albums, I just did a couple of reviews last night where nothing had filler on it. This is another album which I'm going to be doing a review here in the next few days. There's not a single piece of radio filler. There's not anything that labels garbage. Everything's just absolutely amazing and very, very well done.
Well, if we were track short, we're not going to stick crap in there, basically. You've got two versions of Running Back there, right? But the reason for that is that the original version I didn't even play on in Lizzy. I had an argument with Lynott and I walked out. I said, well, do it yourself then. Because I wanted to play it blues and he didn't. He wanted to do it pop.
Right.
And he's the boss. So I just said, fuck that, I'm going to the pop, right?
Yeah.
And let them get on with it. But it doesn't take away from the fact that I still felt that it was a great song. If I hadn't have felt that, I wouldn't have wanted to do it a certain way. I would have just said, no, it's a crap song, I don't want to play it, period. But I always felt it was a great song. I thought the lyrics were great. I thought the feel of it could have been real cool. But he wouldn't let me do it. So we kind of, Thor and I looked at it and went, well, why don't we do it? So I changed the basic tempo of it. The original tempo was 3/4, a shuffle. So we changed it to 4/4 for the fast version. And then I thought that let's try it, the slow version, more like Little Feet,
Yeah.
And we tried it in rehearsal, and we had such fun with it that I said that we had a little bit of extra time in the studio. I said, well, let's try and knock out a slower version of it, which we did, and we had such fun in it. A lot of it's done fairly live on those two tracks. Just the daftness, the weirdness of putting two tracks at different tempos on the same album, I just thought it was a really good idea, but it's weird,
Yeah, but I think it's an interesting...
Somebody else has done it, so...
I think it's a great idea, though, because it gives you a chance to hear it and see and feel a song and get a real sense of the song in two different lights. But I think it was actually a really, really good idea.
Yeah, I doubt I'll do it again. It just sort of came up with that particular song,
What is the songwriting process like for you overall? And what was it like when you got together with everybody for your new band? when you guys would create the song, was it generally a lyric? Is it generally, a drum beat, or does it depend on the song?
Well, I kind of take it all on board because, I kind of know all the instruments and I can, I'm able to play them, so I'm able to express what I want or what I need in a specific song. Now, a lot of these songs I already had demoed over the past 15, 20 years, probably even more some of them. But they were written on keyboard, so I had to transpose them onto guitar for the boys. But I played them the basic old cassettes, and we worked out the arrangements. I said, right, well, this is where it's going to go, and this is the arrangement. And then I just said to Ian and Nala, listen, you just play whatever the hell you want, because I know they're that good, especially together, because we work a lot of sessions together, right? So I knew I had a shit-hot rhythm section there to start with. And I just told them to do what the hell they wanted in the confines of the arrangement, obviously. And they did exactly that. And once I had the basic backing track down, then I could go in and do all my guitars and whatnot and arrange the vocal lines and backing vocals or whatever in the keyboards and things like that. As far as the lyrics are concerned, I've changed a lot of them to bring them up to so that the song feels like it's now for me, personally, And so, songs like Diamonds and Dirt, most of the songs are about how crap women are, really. So I have to bring it up to date to sort of, you have to have a feel, that's up to date and on time, so to speak. And I think we've done that with this,
No, I think absolutely you did. I think you did a great job on it. I know we have probably just a couple of minutes left, but before we wrap everything up...
I'm getting the wind up down here now.
Okay. Do you mind talking about, just since we're really limited for time, because I also want to promote your website and everything and give the release date and all, but can you just mention what your favorite song is on the album and why, as we wind this up?
My favorite song? I have two, actually. I love Diamonds and Dirt. It just says a lot for me at the moment. But I also like the Jailbreak cover because it's so completely mental. It's left field, and I like being a little bit left field, So those are my two, really.
Okay, and I'm going to do this.
Whole album, to be honest, but you can't say that, can you?
No, yeah, you can. Say that again.
No, I'd rather not. I do love the whole album. I don't think there's a track on there that I dislike. There was at the beginning, when you start playing stuff back. I didn't like Devil in My Soul that much, but I actually quite like that now as well. So I don't think there's anything there actually listen all the way through to,
Yeah, well, I'm going to say this to you, Brian, just before we wrap this up and promote the website and promote the album again. I think when you're honest about things, whether it's in songwriting or you're just speaking your feelings about something, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying anything. So, there's nothing wrong with what you said. I just really believe that. That also has a lot for the feel of the magazine, too. It's just about really being honest and true. It's not about, trends or feelings. It's about keeping it honest and true and objective.
Well, you always can make it honest for me, man. I don't know any other way.
I think that's the best way. Your website, and the official one is Robbo, ROBBO thin-lizzy.com.
That's the one.
Yeah, and do you have a Facebook?
Facebook? No, I don't personally, no.
Okay.
I've either MySpace and webpage.
Okay, and everybody can Google and find you on the MySpace and webpage. The album is on SPV and Steamhammer, particularly Steamhammer Records for Europe, SPV for the States. It's coming out late this month. It's called Diamonds and Dirt. And can you take us out of here and just hang on the phone for 1 second? We're done because I want to say thank you again really quickly. But What I like to do to let everybody end the interview is anything that you'd like to say to anybody, as long or short as you want to. I know you don't have a lot of time, but I've had everything from guys saying hello to their wives and I love you to hello to bandmates to thank you to fans. So I'm going to let you take us out of here, and I'm just going to listen.
Oh, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody involved with the album, from Soren to Ian, Nala, Miney, Leaf, and everybody at Polar Studios for making it possible, really, and for building the little family we now have. And as far as the fans are concerned, I really do hope you like it. As I say, it wasn't recorded with that in mind, but it's certainly in mind now, and I really do hope that they enjoy it. And good luck to you all.
Yeah, I want to just say real quick, thank you first of all to you, then I want to say thanks to John Freeman, and also for your tour manager for being very, very patient with us too. I appreciate him doing that.
He's not my tour manager.
A regular manager.
No, he is, Soren is my manager, he's also my best friend, he's also my co-producer, so special thanks to him, I would say. Really.
Yeah, Soren, if you hear me, I appreciate you being patient with us, because I know this is probably going a couple extra minutes, and I'm going to say interview over.